Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Definition, and this is the channel where we explain it so you don't have to. This episode we're covering the 2019 reboot of Hellboy. Whilst the film is a more faithful adaptation for fans of the franchise, the film unfortunately fails in several ways and feels like a clumsy depiction of the right hand of doom that will leave audience members leaving with a clenched fist. Throughout this video, I'll be breaking down everything that you need to know about Hellboy's post-credit scenes and what they tease for the future, for if this movie makes more than $10,000 at the box office. This is full spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want to know what happens, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. With that out of the way, I hope you enjoy the video. Now sit back, relax, and let's get into my ending explained breakdown of Hellboy 2019. The film follows Hellboy as he tries to take down the Blood Queen and stop her from destroying the world. The Queen was killed by King Arthur, who cut her into pieces and did the old spread her body parts to opposite ends of the earth shtick that films love to do these days. It's your average game of collect the body parts that requires the villains to reassemble the Queen in order to put Humpty Dumpty back together again and bring her back to life. She basically wants to end the world and bring hell to the surface. Juxtaposing this, Hellboy is actually suspected of being the one that will bring forth the apocalypse. The Queen uses this ambiguity to trick Hellboy, and the majority of the movie's tension comes from wondering whether he will actually be the one that ends the world or not. We get an amazing scene that sort of plays this out, and whilst the rest of the movie is about as entertaining as watching your granddad say, "Pull my finger" before he farts in your face, this adds duality to the character. In order to track down the Queen, Hellboy enlists the help of Baba Yaga, who it's hinted at has crossed paths with Hellboy in the past and after their battle was banished to another dimension. Yaga helps him, though she states that in return for the favour, she wants one of his eyes. Whilst this is never resolved directly in the movie, the scene is brought up again after the credits in a segment that sees Baba Yaga offering a deal to an unknown person. Yaga wants this mysterious figure to kill Hellboy and to bring one of his eyes in exchange. Now, let's just say hypothetically that this movie makes more than Avengers Endgame and a sequel is greenlit. What exactly can we expect to see in it? Well, in the comics, Baba Yaga's eye was originally shot out by Hellboy after he hunted her down whilst investigating a string of children's disappearances. Hellboy managed to defeat her and send her into a pocket dimension that resembled Russia long before a civilization was ever created there. We would likely have this backstory fully fleshed out in a sequel, as here it's kind of skipped over. There's no indicator of who this mystery man could be, but it could potentially be Rasputin, as the two have worked together in the comics on several occasions. Whilst Rasputin has already appeared in the original Hellboy film adaptation, it makes sense for his presence to be brought back once more, as he's able to travel through dimensions and is also one of the character's greatest foes. He's also in that amazing Boney M song, which I can't play because this video will get flagged, but just look at those dance moves. Appreciate that, yeah? You don't see that anymore. Anyway, the film also heavily teases Abe Sapien in its ending, and honestly, this was the character out of the franchise that I was hoping to see the most. The amphibious man's just coming back off his Oscar win in The Shape of Water, and he of course was a big talking point in the original films, so it makes sense to bring him back. In the comics, Abe can breathe underwater and swim faster than Aquaman. Similar to Rasputin, Abe is also thought to be immortal, so it makes sense to bring these two characters back for the films down the line. He's one of Hellboy's most trusted allies and would make for a great character going forward if they manage to improve the CGI in these movies. And finally, the other post-credits scene shows Hellboy in a graveyard mourning the loss of his father. Hellboy is pretty drunk, probably because he's read the reviews for this film, which is when he's approached by Lobster Johnson. Lobster Johnson was actually my nickname in school, cause all the girls said I had a red Look, never mind. Anyway, Lobster states that he wants to get Hellboy back into fighting, which is when the rest of the credits start to roll. So what exactly does this signify? Well, in the comics, Lobster is a vigilante detective that's pretty much a cross between Batman and the Punisher. He's went through numerous reincarnations, sometimes being dead and resurrected, and other times being someone who's just donned the mantle. The character was actually the star of several foreign films from the 30s to 50s, though not many of the original prints survive. Hopefully this film gets lost too, eh? No, I shouldn't say that really. People have put a lot of work into this, and for me to just rip it apart like that, it's not nice. Anyway, the two will need to team up if they're to take on what's to come, and Johnson could become the Dark Knight of the universe to Hellboy's Man of Steel. And now onto my review. Whilst I'm normally someone who tends to disagree with the big outlets such as IGN, I actually found myself agreeing with them on this one. Hellboy is clumsy, poorly paced, and tries to fit far too much into its short runtime. Whilst BVS did this and suffered too, it at least had longer to juggle the stories. Hellboy, on the other hand, just feels like it wants to drop as many Easter eggs as possible that only hardcore fans will understand, and due to this, it alienates the majority of its audience. There's just... It's hard to describe it if you haven't seen it, really. I think if this was a TV show that had more time to develop its plot points, or it was a longer movie, that it could probably pull this off. However, things whiz by and there's a feeling of real detachment throughout. David Harbour just doesn't possess the charisma that Ron Perlman had, and this makes the character really hard to engage with. Mila Jovovich? Is it Mila Djokovic? I don't know how to pronounce her name at all. Anyway, Mila is trying her darndest, and she's probably the best part of the movie, and she could have really shone with better material. Overall though, the film is very muddled, and I'm gonna take a cue from IGN on this one and say 4 out of 10. Too much hell, not enough boy. I'd of course love to hear your thoughts on the film, and if you disagree with me. Make sure you leave your review in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video then please like it, and make sure you check out my breakdown of this week's big Netflix release, The Silence, which will be linked at the end. This is a channel for people who are mad into movies, so if that's the kind of thing you like, hit subscribe. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. I've been Definition, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.